Hi there, welcome to Wyckoff ICP Technical Analysis session. If you're new to my sessions, here are the 3 key takeaways you can expect from the session. So let's start with the weekly chart of ICP. Here, we are seeing a red candlestick that fall from or as a continuation of the rejection from the 9.92 key level, okay, to somewhere between the orange key level of 5.82 to 7.2. As of this moment, although it seems like it's pretty disappointing, it didn't go all the way up to the purple or past the purple key level of $12.72. However, it's not over yet. There are 2 scenarios, and I'll explain to you what I see is potentially playing out. Okay, I'll give you the bad news first. Leaving the happy news to later. So here, I talk about this red line. Multiple sessions back. This is a declining peak trend line. So from March 2024 to December 2024. We had 2 buying climaxes, and then one lower than the other. So I extended this line towards where we potentially, or where ICP would potentially head to. And at that point in time, I talked about if ICP is really bouncing off from the spring, I hope the buying climax this time goes above this red line, depending on when it started to pump. When I first started, I think we were still at around the red key level of 4.52, and then it dropped and fell to the even lower support level. That's where the spring back in October 2023 was. Okay, and then we've got this pump. So this, either it's a very disappointing buying climax, like I said, being suppressed by this trend line, which is the, bad news scenario where we may have a bit of rebound. Let's say this is the automatic rally. Let me borrow the tag from here, but change it to another color. So if it's something that we don't like, let's use, I don't know, maybe this color. Not differentiating enough. Let's just use yellow. Okay, so if this is really the buying climax, what we are going through is the automatic reaction. What's come next can be a second test or just an LPSY. A second test is something, or a peak close enough to the buying climax. An LPSY is just one lead to peak that's pretty low, maybe somewhere close to the orange key level, and then eventually die down. Okay, so that's the bad news scenario. However, the good news scenario, which I'll explain further when we get to the daily chart, is that this is just a pause for the preliminary supply period. Okay, so an example, if we go back to the history of ICP, there are 2 scenarios you can immediately see on the leg towards the climax, just in 2024. Alright, here, the first example, first leg up, took a pause with a red cross for just a week, and then immediately 3 weeks later, it reached the climax. Alright, so from the candlestick chart perspective, it looks quite clean, even though there's something red over here, but it's not obvious. Alright, it's mostly white. But on the left hand side, just half a year or 8 months earlier compared to the November-December run. This time, from December 2023, this first leg up, this huge leg upward, like what we are having right now, okay? Huge leg upward. It took a pause. Actually here, there was a pause as well, after that leg. But that leg isn't as prominent as the one we are having, also the one in 2023. It took a pause the second week, and then more horizontal trading during that PSY period, before the actual climax appeared. Alright, so these are two different patterns that you can always see in a lot of altcoins chart, or maybe even Bitcoin in some of the years when it climbs to its respective peak. So this, for the good news scenario, is it is just taking a pause because the price pumped so quickly. You see this long wick from the top as well during 2023, right? So it's not that it is over. Multiple times these long white candlesticks, you can see a long wick at the top. So the good news scenario is that it's not over, and that there is a chance it's doing some sideways trading before it finally finds sufficient support to get to the real climax this turn, or this time. Okay, that's the big picture scenario. So the chance, that's only my guessing, not saying you should base on this to invest. I'm guessing this is more like a 30% chance, the yellow scenario in the whole, okay? And that we have yet to see the buying climax, the real buying climax. Alright, that's the more optimistic view. Not that this is the certainty. But when we get to the daily chart, we see that the volume of selling has been declining pretty consistently over the past 3 days, including today. Alright, that's a sign that if you're bullish about ICP, that's something we want to see. Because if we go up, when we go up, the volume is higher, and when we go down, the volume is lower, meaning there aren't many people trying to sell. And that's going to help the price or the upthrust to continue. And another factor over here is, if you're new to my session, or if you have already forgotten this yellow dashed line, when this rise initially started, before the actual pump over the next 4 or 5 days, is that the initial support line over here, if I extend it, the current drop, you see it hasn't dropped below that particular support line yet. Alright, so as long as it stays above this trend line, it looks to me the uptrend isn't over yet, until the point it drops below this particular support trend line. So when this happens, we have to adjust the air hockey table, because initially it was lying, not as steep as the current one, just because what happened subsequently. I adjusted the this air hockey table, or the uptrend channel, to this particular rate of rise. So it's time to adjust it, and we don't need that yellow line anymore, because that's where the bottom edge of this air hockey table, or the channel box, is going to sit. And we may be seeing the actual trading channel being established. Now we have 3 points. So the 3 points are this particular area, this, and this. So remember, the price actions are like hockey table, air hockey game. The puck bounces off between the boundaries as well as the center line. So right now we may be seeing, the boundary being formed. It's probably not over yet. By then we have to adjust. But if it really is the two boundaries, then a good chance, if it continues, that's where the uptrend is going to play out. Alright? So that's, again, falling under the positive scenario. let's put in the Wyckoff tax. So we have the PSY drawn already. We have the buying climax here. So again, if it is the pessimistic scenario, these are where it is. If it is the scenario like it described, this PSY, for this run, maybe is only this leg downward is also part of the PSY, not the actual automatic reaction. But it's tricky in the daily time frame because it happens more frequent for the events. So this may be true for the daily, while it's not the case for the weekly. I know it's complicated. It sounds complicated because in the daily chart, let me see how to explain this better. Because in the daily chart, events happen much quicker, and this leg up all the way, let's say, is the blue scenario. If the buying climax really ends up higher, may it be the purple key level or the blue key level, in the daily chart, it's way above that, right? So it can happen in a way that in the daily chart, this is really the buying climax, this is the automatic reaction, and then it goes to an upthrust, and maybe the automatic reaction too, and then the upthrust after distribution. That's where the buying climax of the weekly is. But in the daily chart, it already went through all these three peaks, and then maybe a dip for the daily. That's where the automatic reaction of the weekly chart is. Okay, I know it's difficult to visualize. So if I go here, you see what I'm talking about. So that's the actual peak buying climax. Let me move the chart to the right hand side. And I've drawn this leg downward. That's where the automatic reaction goes. So see this one, but this one is blue this time. All right, so that thing pointing downwards towards the green key level is the automatic. It's already in multiple stages. Okay, so hope that helps you visualize the difference between the daily chart and the weekly chart. Wyckoff method wasn't designed for that particular frequent time frame. The reason I've explained a couple of times, if you're new, the reason I'm putting in Wyckoff tax or the Wyckoff method into a daily chart is because of a community member's request. So there's something more interesting for us to see. Not that Wyckoff method was initially designed for like a weekly chart, not a daily chart. It's not designed for a daily chart view. So quickly, just to check one thing. So if the price really bounces, it's getting into this corner over here. That's pointing towards somewhere near the end of this week, November 14th or 15th. So tomorrow, the day after, if the price really bounces or trade along this bottom edge of the uptrend, then this is a decision point, okay? If it trades above the yellow support or basically the key level of around $7.20, okay? If it breaks above, that's a good sign that this uptrend maybe really is what we're talking about. If it doesn't, if it really finishes this run prematurely, then it will fall outside of this by the next few days. This blue line, this blue slope over here. Alright, so we just have to wait for 2 more days to see whether this is really not the slope or the rate of ascent that we are expecting. If it falls further back to the accumulation zone, meaning below the orange key level of 5.82, that I'm just going back to the history over here. So in the weekly chart is clearer. something happened similar over here during February 2023. When the price first came down from that drop, it had the automatic rally and then dropped further down. Then it's got this little bulge. Whether you call it a mini buying climax over there, like this was a mini distribution, and then it fell to another deeper valley, which I tagged as spring back then. Something happened similar over there, that it ended again somewhere above the yellow key level. This time we went all the way to the light blue key level, okay, but closing near the 7.2 yellow key level. That's the similarity compared to that time. Just that if it really is that case, that may mean we are going through same like 1.5 year kind of accumulation. So from here all the way to here, it took over 500 days. So I hope this is not what it is. Alright, I'm just explaining to you that there is a possibility. My hope is still that this is really still part of the run towards the real buying climax, but we never know. Yeah, I forgot to change back to the chart view, so you probably didn't see what I was drawing on the left hand side. Sorry about that. So that was what I was referring to. So here you see this leg down, and then this trade and up, this leg down, and then much shorter sideways trading, and then the leg up. Well, sorry, not this one. It's like it automatically bounces and then come back down. This is the leg up. So you see we've got this W, that a similar W, not exactly the same, but I hope this is not what it is, because it closes somewhere near the 7.2 key level, yellow key level over there, similar to what we're having right now. And then it eventually had another test before it came down to this level. Okay, so that's the similarity over there, and that's where I talk about the over 500 days of accumulation for ICP back in 2002-2003. I hope this is not a repeat of what happened here, what we're having right now. Alright, so hope I have explained clearly the positive or the pessimistic scenarios. It's very tricky period right now. We see like a day or two of green, and then immediately after a pretty red day that wipe out everything that has climbed. At least for ICP as of this moment, it's still kind of at a positive stage depending on where you get in. Hope it's still going to go further, but always remember, have your stop loss ready. We never know what are the big guys are trying to play. Okay, they can make this run up, and then they can quickly push it down like what they did. Why my cursor isn't showing? So I was talking about this. So they can push it up just to push it lower before they actually make a mega climb. Yeah, so I probably have repeated myself. Thanks for joining me today.